nice note.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. We have recording. We have proof that I hit it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I've been not even good at creating the intro yet. I was just like, well. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Moment of Clarity podcast. It is a podcast where I interview my amazing guy friends who are of the nerdier variety. Today's is a very special guest because this gentleman next to me is not my friend.
Hi, it's nice to meet you for the first time.
He's a little bit more than a friend, I would say. And he hopes.
We're gonna have a long conversation if that's not true.
This is my boyfriend Jacob.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Jacob is so excited to be here. He's not nervous at all.
Not even a little bit.
He didn't feel pressured at all. In fact, he eagerly jumped at the opportunity.
So we're just out here lying. Okay. Understood. Okay, I see how this is going.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I'm never going to watch this episode. I'll watch the rest, but not this one.
Your family might.
That's terrifying. Mm-hmm.
No, this is going to be their favorite episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be fantastic. That's all the dark cryptic things of my past laid bare before my family.
Well, no, I was gonna say it comes to the light, but I don't know, I guess, but that's not really like a.
It is very bright in here.
It is, yeah. It is very bright. You know, we got a plant. We have a guitar, and we're gonna be talking about, I guess, according to Jacob, some really dark things. So,
spoiler alert, I'm a tad melodramatic.
Yeah. So I guess I'll get right into it. So, what got you into video games, anime, nerd culture?
I've always kind of my dad's always been into computers and stuff like that, so I grew up a tech adjacent, and then actually my kind of foray into the world of games was when we moved from England to the United States. I was gifted a Super Nintendo system because a friend, somebody that my parents knew had bought a system while they were in the U.S., not realizing it was different power plugs and different video. I forgot the exact phrasing, but it wouldn't work on UK televisions.
Oh, okay. It was the audio and video. Was it the red, yellow?
Yeah, the
white?
RGB cables.
Yeah.
But there was they did something specific because
there was a coaxial cable, I think, for SNES, right?
I may have been. But I do remember there was a specific, not relevant. Either way, we got it because it wouldn't work on the UK stuff, and they knew we were moving to the US. And initially, the only game we had was Super Mario Bros. Because that was what was on the system. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of. I remember sitting in the year of our Lord 1996 on my grandparents' sitting room floor with my grandfather's. I think it was a huge. In my head, it's 200-inch television. But it was not 200 inches. It's probably
because you were a kid.
Yeah,
it seemed like it was. Yeah,
it was a 65-inch, but it was a CRT, so it was one of those it literally took up the wall. Yeah. Not like the nice little flat screen 65-inch you got out there now.
Yeah, true. It was a big back TV. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember sitting there and I remember playing games and finding kind of a little bit of joy in that, and that was kind of my first sprinkling into it. and gaming just kind of became more and more of a point. Like for holidays and Christmases, I started asking for games, and I got Mega Man X.
Nice. I love Mega Man X.
Yeah, it was one of my like that was my like, oh, this is I love this. This is fun. I love the character design. I love all of that kind of stuff. And this was 1996 to 1998. We were living in Texas, and this was also around like the heyday of the Toonami block for Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
So I ironically, because we lived in Texas, I was a Gundam kid and not a Dragon Ball Z kid.
So Gundam was bigger in Texas?
And it was sheer timing because we're an hour behind, but everything was broadcast on Eastern Standard Time.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
The first, so Dragon Ball Z came on right after school Eastern Standard Time. Mm-hmm. So you would basically have to get driven home. And I used to ride my bike home from school.
Yeah.
So there was no way I was going to make it home from school in time. But the second block kicked off with Gundam Wing.
Gotcha, yeah.
And so Gundam Wing was like my jam. I loved Gundam Wing. I still do. Like Gundam's one of my favorite franchises. But yeah, so I got into that, and then kind of I've always been a bit nerdy in terms of like a bit. I like facts. I like history. I like that kind of stuff. So that all kind of like shuffled me down a very nerdy path through middle and high school and into college. And there's always been a bit of nerd all the way through. Yeah. So that's kind of my nerd beginnings.
Okay, nice.
That and my dad reading Lord of the Rings to me as a baby. I don't know if that counts.
I would say so.
Because apparently I wouldn't go to sleep, so he would just go into my room and sit with me and read The Hobbit. Or Lord of the Rings or whatever.
Yeah. No, those are like some intense books, I heard. Like the books compared to the movies.
They're wordy. I remember being very excited to read The Lord of the Rings and then getting to the Two Towers, and I could probably do a 30-minute essay on why the Two Towers could have been 500 pages shorter. Tolkien is definitely an author who believes in the idea of why say one word when you can say 12, which definitely didn't have an effect on me at all. Not even a little bit.
So that was question one. Kidding. So which fictional characters did you want to emulate or look up to growing up?
When I don't remember when I was like very, very, very young, but I was always, I always thought like it was weird because it was always the secondary characters that I was drawn to. Like from Gundam Wing, I like Duo, who is the pilot of Death Scythe, who acted as a bit of the plucky secondary to Hiro Yui's like stoic war is hell kind of attitude. That show was so dramatic. I love it so much. But I always liked that. There was a piece of me that always wanted to be kind of that kind of character.
The secondary character?
Yeah, it's always been the secondary characters for me. Like, I always liked Sokka most. When I got into Atla, it was
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Sorry. I loved characters like when I got back into anime and I started watching like Gurren Lagann again. It was Kamina that grabbed me, like the very bombastic but ultimately secondary characters. It was never the main characters.
Right, I hear you.
Interesting.
I was kind of the same way. I figured it was because of being the youngest, and with like I have 3 brothers, and one of them has like autism, and he was like nonverbal as well, so he always kind of kept himself manny. My other 2 brothers, we played video games and watched anime together because we're also all close enough in age. My oldest brother, he'd always like Mario and Goku and like the main character. My other brother always liked the more so like the secondary characters because you can't take like your sibling's favorite character. You have to have your own.
Yeah.
So Max always liked Krillin.
Yeah.
And
Krillin's
Luigi.
dope.
Yeah, Krillin is dope. And I liked Yoshi and Gohan. In fact, like my brother who likes Luigi, he got me a Yoshi egg light that's in my bathroom currently.
Yeah. You're welcome. I put it in there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, my brother gave it to me, and I just didn't know quite where to put it. Then Jacob here put it in the bathroom, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great place to put it. Thank you. What was middle school and high school like for you?
It was rough. I got bullied a lot.
In middle school, right?
Yeah, middle school in particular, because I've always been a little bit awkward. I'm like, I don't know. I describe myself as an acquired taste, even though that's just a me description. But like I've always been a little bit awkward socially. I've never quite figured out how to fully settle into a situation. And on top of that, I was into fantasy novels because of my dad, and I was into video games before it was cool to be into video games, and I still into anime and stuff, and so I was always on the fringe, but I was also on the fringe of I was never part of the popular clique, but I wasn't like a rocker or a skater or something like that, so I was a pretty easy target for the class bullies. And I got some, I remember one of my friends got me into Magic the Gathering. And I remember playing at lunch, and I distinctly remember one kid, one of my bullies, running up behind me, grabbing a card off the table and tearing it up into confetti and
shit.
chucking it places. I still have my middle school yearbook, where they wrote a bunch of you did what you do at the end of the year. You passed it around to your classmates to have them sign stuff. And then my bullies got a hold of it, and there's a bunch of pages with some rather nasty stuff written about me in it and stuff like that. And then high school was a lot better. I went to I was in magnet programs for both middle school and high school. But when I went to high school, I went to an IB program, International Baccalaureate program, which, if you're going to be nerdy, that's the place to be nerdy.
Yeah.
So high school was a lot better for me.
You were in middle school in Texas?
No, I was elementary school. Finished elementary school in Texas, and then did middle school and high school in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I always thought it was just high school in Florida. My bad.
No. I did, middle school, I went to New River Middle. And then I went to Boyd H. Anderson High School. And then, so I did the IB program, and it was cool. High school was a lot better for me. I had a lot of personal issues at the time. I suffered from depression, and it really kind of kicked into overdrive in high school. There were some incidents and stuff like that. But broadly, I was well liked. I was the way I describe it is I was never part of one particular group. I was just kind of chill with every group. So it's that idea of you're kind of semi-liked everywhere. And then I was swimming and playing water polo through all of this, and that's where I found my community, and that's where I found my space. Was with the people I played with, and I managed to, and then that's where I built my confidence. It also helps that I grew 6 inches between my my freshman and sophomore year of high school. So I stopped being the like slightly short, slightly pudgy kid,
Yeah.
and was the tall kid all of a sudden, and that nets you a lot of points.
Because you went from what, like 5'6" to 6 foot.
Around there.
Yeah.
I was like 5 or 6. It was a lot. My mom tells stories about a day I came home from school, had a sandwich when I got home from school, had a bowl of cereal before dinner, ate 2 or 3 servings of dinner, and was eating another sandwich while we were cleaning up from dinner. Like I was eating. I was eating.
Yeah.
I was eating for that height.
Yeah. Eating your mom out of house and home.
Yeah.
That's what you say.
I historically don't like cheese. I remember distinctly one night I was so hungry. What my mom and sister and my family did when they would cook pasta dishes and stuff is they'd like make lasagna for everybody else, and I'd get a little plate of the ragu and some pasta sheets, so I had something that I could eat. And I can't remember. I think my sister made 4-cheese mac and cheese that night. I was so hungry. I was eating the mac and cheese, and I remember my mom and my sister looking at me like I was an alien.
Were you hungry because of water polo, or was it because you were growing, or was it both?
It's both.
Okay.
I mean, like, I was in a pool 24 hours a week, so that was exhausting. So yeah, I had a job. I was a nerdy jock. Yeah, I was in a pool at one point. It was 24 hours a week in a pool, and then games and meets and tournaments on top of that. So that was my life. Played video games, dropped off of anime at about that point pretty heavily, just because of access.
Yeah.
Because this is 2000. This is the early to mid 2000s.
Right.
So like, internet speeds weren't at a point where streaming was a real thing. Crunchyroll was still a pirate site.
Yeah. It was like fan dubs, right?
It was fan dubs.
Yeah.
I would dabble back in occasionally. I would like go through stuff. Like I watched, like I would watch shows, and I would find some new shows, but like, I didn't have like internet, like Wi-Fi wasn't a thing at that point. Like
Yeah.
this was like budding days. Like I remember fighting to get like a 128k download speed, like really wanting a 128k download speed.
So this was like dial-up days.
Yeah, this is like, and then like we got cable internet when we moved to Florida, and that was super exciting, but that was still really slow.
Yeah.
And it was still like the tech just wasn't there. It wasn't as accessible as it is now. So I fell off of anime a little bit. I did enjoy some of those fan dubs though. I do miss the like aggressive, hyper neon pink text that some people thought was like the play for
For the subs.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, oh god, that was Anime Freaks and Kiss Anime, which still exist in some form today. I definitely put viruses on several computers. Yes, but video games, I stayed on with video games. I loved video games. I played Halo a lot. I was big into the Mass Effect series when that was like at its peak. I loved video games. That's where I found, I was huge into StarCraft. StarCraft 2 especially. Like was obsessed with the esports scene when it was still like relevant and big. I remember watching the GSL finals instead of studying for my finals.
What's GSL?
GSL was the GOM TV Star League. It's a Korean StarCraft tournament that, if anybody knows anything about time zones, had me up at 2:00 in the morning about watching it instead of studying for finals. It was definitely a place I hid with my depression in a lot of ways, because like I would do that instead of studying for things or writing papers that I was supposed to be writing, which led to me failing out of college eventually. But yeah.
Okay, so this was college when you'd watch these games,
Yeah.
not high
Yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And if like I think the beta for StarCraft was 2007, which was the year I graduated high school. Mm-hmm. So it was like right on that cusp.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What was college like for you?
College was interesting. I shouldn't have gone. Like looking back on it, I shouldn't have gone.
You shouldn't have gone to college.
I should have at least taken a gap year.
Okay.
I was like, it felt like the thing to do, and it felt like a failure to take a gap year. So it felt like I had to go to college, but I like sabotaged my applications. I like sat on them and was like, oh, I can't go to UF or FSU because that's everybody in the IB program's backup schools. I can't be that guy. Mm-hmm. I looked at schools that I could potentially play water polo at, and never turned in a single application for them. Mm-hmm. I was a school up in New York, up in Rochester, a Jesuit school up there. Cannot for the life of me remember what it was, the name of it, but like I was really interested in going there, and then just never did anything with it. There was also talk of me going back to England for college and going to the University of Bristol and stuff like that, and seeing if there was a path for me to get onto the water polo team for the 2012 Olympic Games, the British water polo team for the 2012 Olympic Games.
Okay.
And like all of that stuff felt very overwhelming. So what ended up basically happening is I late applied to New College of Florida and applied to FAU because FAU was basically just a free get in.
Yeah.
I remember I got waitlisted for New College, and they told me straight up that if I'd applied on time, I would have gotten in. Like that was but because I didn't, I got waitlisted, and then so I late applied for FAU. FAU accepted me, and I did the very last possible orientation with them. And I lived at home for the first year and a half to 2 years. My parents made the decision to move up coast to Fort Pierce, just because it didn't make sense for them to be down here. It was expensive. It's expensive to live down here.
By that point, your sister had already gone to UF.
My sister had left for UF at that point.
Yeah.
So it was just me living at home, and my dad's job was 100% remote. So they said, we're going to move up coast. So I moved out, and I lived down here working off of a retail salary. Back in the day when you could get a 2-2 apartment down here for $900 to $1,100 a month. Back in way gone yesteryear, and that was still a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did, and then yeah, I was always that kid who was like good in discussions. I was like very proud of the fact that I could talk about reading passages, and I could have substantive debates in my college classes about passages I hadn't read, basically. And like I used that all as an excuse to like, oh, I'll just take the tests 'cause I'll do the exams. If I don't do it, then if I don't do the work, then like whatever. And I got frustrated, and it got worse, and my depression got worse. And I to a point where I tried to kill myself. I got myself into therapy at the school.
Okay.
I got myself into therapy at the school, and that helped a little bit, but it was kind of too late. So I was told I did a year of academic probation, and then I was kicked out of school December of 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, which was the fall semester of my senior year of college. So I was one semester shy. I was one semester and a couple credits shy of graduating. Yeah, I think I was sitting on 89 or 90 credits out of 120.
Yeah. Yeah, so you were like a semester and some change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because at that time, I was also taking only like 4,000 level classes. So it was full credit loads as well. It wasn't like I was, your gen eds. Yeah. Either way. So college was rough. I kind of feel like I did it to myself at the end of the day, but I kind of feel like I gave myself half the experience, but I got a lot of friends out of it and stuff like that. And kind of fell back into nerdiness because I made friends with people at the plaza where I worked. I met my best friend there, and like we connected over kind of nerdy things. We have very similar sense of humor. We both played Smash, and that was kind of our bridge. He's a much better Smash player than I am. But I had a lot, but like, yeah, so video games have always been kind of a communal thing and a kind of like way to connect with different people for me. Yeah, it was, so there's always been a through line of like video games are an amazing cocktail of distraction and pseudo social experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because getting called slurs on Xbox Live is technically a form of social stuff. But also, I like, on that same vein, I had a guy invite me into a clan like on Call of Duty because he's like, this guy's a great sniper, and like he was active duty Army or Navy, I can't remember which, but deployed out in Japan.
Okay.
And it was just cool, like these weird global connections,
right?
And, and like video games were just kind of this avenue to be part of a larger community.
Okay. It was just funny how you're like, you're getting called a slur, and I was invited to a clan. I'm like, sir, do you?
I am aware.
I was like, where is this going?
Yeah. No, not that clan. That clan can go do several things that will probably get you banned off of YouTube.
Oh my god.
No, I found community through video games, and that's kind of what kept me afloat.
Was it the guy who called you a slur? Was the guy?
No.
Okay, I was about to say.
No, that's just your Xbox Live experience. Your standard Xbox Live experience.
That's
F slurs, N words, R words. Xbox Live was a special kind of cesspool.
I never had like the original Xbox. And I remember from the show X Play with Adam, can't remember his name.
Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb.
Thank you. At Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb, they had this segment called "It Came from Xbox Live," and it was just,
yeah,
that was even the worst of it because they couldn't air what was actually, so it'd just be like some weird funny things, but also like they would blur out the curse words and the slurs and things like that. But
yeah,
how old were you? You were like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. Xbox Live was a little later for me. It was because I paid for it myself, which fair enough.
Yeah, like who?
I also grew up in a house where, especially when I was younger, like video game time was limited for me.
Is it because it was sports and school and everything, or was it
no parentals?
Oh, okay.
My mom and dad were like many parents of that time era, like very nervous about me spending too much time on video games because there were concerns about me being more violent and aggressive when I played video games. There were concerns about
really.
other like the usual stuff. You heard a lot of it on like Dateline and the news at that time, like violent video games make violent people type stuff. And my parents are like, and I think my parents just generally believed that like it was better for me to be outside and playing, which is great.
And true.
Till they find out that I played in the storm drains in Texas, which they probably would have rather me play video games than do. But they, in particular, they were very hesitant about me playing violent video games for a lot of my life, which is fair. Because my parents are, my mom in particular is staunchly anti-gun, and she didn't want me to ever get to a place where I felt like guns and violence were cool.
Understandable.
To use to use the hokey language on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so I had limited playtime until I got to like until about my late teens, early 20s, when they got to a point where they're like, well, you're an adult now, you get to make your own choices.
Right. Yeah.
I filled the rest of it with like reading and stuff like that. Reading, like, a huge love books, like grew up around books, so I'm a bit of a book nerd too.
Yeah. Well, what kind of books did you like to read? Was it also a fantasy like your father?
Yeah, my dad got me into Terry Pratchett at a very young age. I remember doing a book report on I cannot remember the name of the series, but it was the Terry Pratchett series in like elementary school. I can see the cover now and I can't remember. I remember reading Sourcery very early on and like falling in love with that kind of witticism and wordplay.
What about the books that were assigned to you at school? How, like, were you...
Nah, you tell me to do something, I don't want to do it.
And yet you're here.
I've come a long way since I was 8. I love fantasy. I love that kind of fiction. I'm not huge on like serious reading. And ironically, as much as I love history, like I hate being assigned history. Like I think it comes down to kind of that like I think it's related to my neurodivergence. Like I have dyspraxia, so I think there's a lot of overlap with ADHD and a couple of the others, and there's that like anybody with ADHD can tell you that like as soon as you, no matter how fun and how much of a dopamine you're getting from doing something, as soon as somebody tells you to do it, that immediately disappears.
No, I feel you.
But yeah, so fantasy, sci-fi, a huge sci-fi nerd. I remember reading, but it was also a way that I connected with my family, because while I was a huge reader, like burned out several Game Boy lamps reading under the covers after bedtime when I was a kid, my sister wasn't. My sister struggled a bit with reading. She just didn't engage with it in the same way.
Yeah.
So in order to help and encourage my what my mom would do is on Sundays, she would read a book to my sister, and I would hop up on the bed with them and like listen to the story. And it became kind of like a family thing. And like we'd do stuff like we read through a bunch of the Animorphs together. The Harry Potter series was huge for us.
Yeah, I remember you were saying that they would get 2 books, for like one for you so you could just read it, because you would just hog it and read it, and then everybody else had the other book.
That was the later series. I was a bit of a menace with that. Is like I want to know what happens, so I would clear those books very quickly. But I would also sit there every Sunday and listen to my mom read them to me and my sister.
That's cool. I always wish that I only recently got into reading. Maybe like 3 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And I always believed that I wasn't a reader, that I wasn't really into books, because what I pictured a reader was those kids at school who have like 6, 7 library books, who would just be
Yeah.
constantly reading, ignoring the teacher and everything. And but also would read the required reading as
Yeah.
well. And the required reading always sucked.
Yeah.
And when I think back on it, I'm like, why did I have to read Jane Eyre? I never needed. I understand the importance of the Bronte sisters. You know, like they're women and they couldn't do things back in the day, to give a very, very, very.
We are coming for fictional literature right now, and in a very aggressive way.
Like I understand.
Literary analysis is very important. Interpretation of text is very important.
Yeah, and I also think some of it was just bullshit, honestly. Because you're gonna tell me that in The Grapes of Wrath, the character whose name had the initials JC represented Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
And how did we know that?
because it makes sense given the context of the text. I don't know specifically this example.
It
but
could,
I
it
can
could,
relate.
it, like okay, like I understand. It could just also be a coincidence, but it was just like annoying. I remember. I mean, granted, I didn't really like read it because it was boring. But,
Go on.
but it was just. I remember the teacher was just like, "Come on," I can't remember the character's name. It was like Jesse Castle, JC, and we're all just like, Jesus Christ! Like you couldn't see the parallels between. I was like, what the? Why do we have to know this? So I like to read, just romance novels, rom-coms. And what I like about them is that, to my knowledge, there isn't some big, like, symbolism and things like that. I don't have to know
There
about.
can be.
Yeah.
That's just how you're reading the text. Like, you don't have to read for that kind of stuff, but it is important to know. Like, lack of media literacy is kind of why people look at, oh my gosh, the example escapes me. Starship Troopers now, the movie Starship Troopers, and go, oh, this is like a real serious thing. The book absolutely was a very pro-fascist book. The movie is a satire on fascism and fascist propaganda. Mm-hmm. And we just hit this circle of like, but now we have there's a whole generation who were so STEM focused, who didn't get this literary interpretation, that would watch that movie and go, oh, okay, cool. This is very pro-fascist. Mm-hmm. There was a very specific example recently that I cannot remember that was absolutely parody, but there was a bunch of conversation online about how this is a scary look and how this can't be real, and everyone's like, but this is parody. Mm-hmm. It comes from that lack of media literacy. It comes from that inability to kind of interpret a text or a source of media.
Right, I get that. And I understand the importance of interpreting parody and satire, and I could recognize these things. It's more so just that I don't want to always be reading something for that kind of symbolism. Sometimes, because what I like to read is just, it's just a way to just shut off your brain.
I get that, but you need the tool set.
Yeah, and I do have the tool set. It's just
I
probably didn't have it at 14, 15, and also that goes to show the teacher.
Yeah.
Because none of us knew what the hell this character was supposed to represent.
100%.
Yeah.
It is absolutely on the teacher at that point. It's on a bunch of different factors.
Yeah.
I've never seen reading as a solitary thing because I have fond memories of my parents and my grandparents reading me stories growing up.
See, I always saw it as like a solitary thing from just everyone that I would see around me, and also one of my sisters, she's a big reader, and like that was just like her way of escaping, was reading books and watching Turner Classic Movies. Yeah. So and like I believe she would read just old timey romance novels, if I recall correctly. Yeah, that's what she was reading. But like, it is just a way to escape, at least for me.
Yeah.
But I did always admire and a bit and was a bit jealous or envious of those students and those people who could read these books and see, connect the dots and see the foreshadowing and things of that nature, and are able to recognize the allegory and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I just like yeah, reading's it's yeah. I think it's a fundamental skill that we're losing. I think media
Reading or
media
or both.
well both honestly,
Yeah.
but media literacy is such a big part because it's important to know that like the whole like because this also makes it fun to talk about shows like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Talking about free run with you, for example, like without that level of media analysis and like looking beyond the initial layer, it's just a cute story.
Yeah.
I like it. It gives that story depth, weight, and meaning.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of like another show that had a lot of meaning I mean, Gurren Lagann has a lot of meaning.
I cried.
Yeah, me too. You saw.
I just assumed you were crying because they just in solidarity with me.
Not everything's about you, Jacob.
Why not?
Just very powerful messages throughout the whole show. So yeah, that is one thing that I do appreciate and love about anime. One Piece.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it to me in your face symbolism.
I think that's the example I was thinking of, where a bunch of people on the internet a couple years ago were trying to say that One Piece was apolitical.
No.
And that the woke liberal agenda is trying to push symbolism into One Piece, which is not even without even a layer. You don't even have to dig deep for this. Is about about freedom in the face of an authoritarian regime.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they had an episode about human trafficking.
Yup.
And this place was called Human Trafficking, right?
Yup. There's a whole like we're out here gonna say the Fishman is not representative of racism and xenophobia,
Right.
and otherism, like
the celestial dragons. It's just like
the elite rich. Wild.
right. Yeah.
How the Marines and the pirates are basically the same thing in different uniforms.
Oh yeah.
There's good factions and bad factions in both.
Yeah. For sure. But now it's apolitical.
The use of the bounties and the media as a way to disseminate propaganda. Yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, just breaking down One Piece.
Yeah.
What was your experience like, or like your relationship with your teachers growing up?
I was a bit of a teacher's pet.
Yeah.
I like intellectual discussion.
Yeah.
And it was fun to like be the smarty pants in the class a little bit, to be the know-it-all, to be the one that like it morphed as I got older. It morphed. I stopped being like necessarily the teacher's pet, but more the one that just had the answer.
You hear yourself?
Yeah, I do. No, like I know what I sound like. This is all about my toxic past. Like
That's
this
true.
is part of it.
That is fair. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's just because I use my intellect as kind of
Shield.
yeah, as a shield, as a way to be like, well, at least I'm like in spite of my insecurities, at least I'm the smart one.
Well, actually.
Exactly. That combined with the fact that debate is a bit of a support in my household.
I was gonna ask, like, what's your relationship with your parents growing up?
I mean, I have an amazing relationship with my parents. I'm very lucky in that.
Yeah.
But because we moved a lot, it was like my relationship with my parents and my sister is like in some ways tighter than a lot of other people, but also a little bit more like, I don't know, not as close in other ways. But my teachers liked me a lot. I engaged in class discussion, and every teacher likes it when you do that.
That's true.
I asked questions, I responded to questions, and that's literally what every college professor has ever wanted from a student. Like I said, I would get away with, I would get away with like turning in stuff late and stuff because I would engage enough with the material and be likable enough that like they're like, you know what you're doing. We'll just knock a letter grade off, turn it in late. That's fine. And that kind of stuff. I mirror my mom because apparently one of the notes that my mom got as a child in school was, if you want to see Allison's work, look at her neighbor's papers. But I get along with, I've always gotten along with adults pretty well. Part of that comes from the fact that like, because we moved quite a bit, I spent a lot of time at home with my parents. I spent a lot of time on long car rides with my parents because my sister used to do ballet in Miami. With the Miami City Ballet, and I would, and when I was too young to be home alone, my mom would pick me up, and we'd all bundle down, and I'd drive down to Miami Beach, and it would be me and my mom trying to find something to do for the 45 minutes to an hour she had dance class, and then driving back up. So it was a lot of time spent talking to her, and trips with my dad. My dad would, would take me to go fishing with him, and it was never with like other people with kids. It was always him and like his cousins or people he knew or friends of his dad's from when he was a kid. So I spent a lot of time around adults. And I think in a lot of ways that kind of helped me engage with them. And my insecurities with people my own age meant that, like, I was good with teachers, but I was not good with kids.
What about your relationship with your sister? Like, for those long car rides, did you also talk to your sister?
Yeah, a little bit. She and I had a very interesting thing where, like, you typically go to school with your, especially since we're only 18 months apart. You typically go to school with your siblings most of the way through. Because of magnet programs and because of varying interests, basically after fifth grade, or after my fifth grade, her fourth grade, we never went to the same school again. And because she was doing dance and I was doing water polo and swimming and stuff like that, it was, we spent a lot of time apart. Like I think I have a great relationship with my sister. She's, when I told you, when I told you that, like, I tried to kill myself in, college, my sister found out and drove back down from UF, drove the 4.5 hours to get home so that she could be there for me. She's, she and I don't talk on a regular basis. It's not like we chit chat every other day or every other week or anything like that. But we both know that, like, she texts me 911. I'm on a plane headed to New York. Or vice versa. I'm only semi-joking when I say I want to be her when I grow up. Like, she might be younger than me, but she figured out where her passions were, and she chased her passions. And she didn't necessarily end up exactly where she thought she would land, but she's found her space and she's found her place. I mean, right now she's in Peru.
Yeah.
After going to Vietnam last year, South Africa the year before. Like,
I went to
she's traveling.
Singapore, right? Or was it
Vietnam.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, I could have sworn she also went to Singapore.
Nah, and then she's going to the Netherlands to go watch the Formula One Grand Prix. Like,
oh, nice! I'd love to go to the Netherlands.
She's found her feet and she's found her place and she's found her space, and I'm really proud of her for that. She's still my little sister, and I'm immensely proud of her.
Oh, that's a little sister. It's always nice when my older siblings are proud of me.
I know they all are.
What do you do outside of anime and video games?
This week, I am a person with revolving hobbies. Depends
Same,
on where the wands and winds take me. I am currently, I do HEMA on the weekends.
Explain what HEMA is.
HEMA is historical European martial arts. Okay. It's basically fencing, but done through the lens of like longsword and medieval history.
Okay, so that goes with your love of history.
Yes, it does. Yeah. And it keeps me physically active, which is great. My roommate, there was a running joke for a while that I moved in with my current roommate Tom, and I got all of his hobbies and I brought nothing to the table. Because he got me into D&D, he got me back into Magic, he got me into surfing.
I didn't know Tom got you into D&D. I always thought you liked D&D.
No.
You were D&D curious.
I was D&D curious.
Yeah.
I just never had an opportunity, not that I never had an opportunity. I never got up the nerve to like kind of my couple of experiences with D&D before I moved in with Tom were like kind of. I remember going to a game shop when I was in early college and like watching a group of like 10 or 20 people play at a table, and it was a lot, and I was very overwhelmed. But yeah, like there was opportunity, and but I never like bit the bullet. And then like just living with Tom, like I took the plunge. I don't play as regularly as I used to, and a lot of that is my own fault because I filled my schedule with everything under the sun. But yeah, so D&D was a late acquisition, as was surfing, and my reintroduction to Magic.
How old were you? Like late 20s?
29.
29. Oh, the latest of 20s.
Yeah. The surfboard that I have that I love to death, that koi board, was the 30th birthday present.
Yeah.
Was a bunch of friends and family all clubbed together and bought me that, and I'm forever grateful. Yeah, and then handmade by Tom of Zen Surfboards. Shout out,
shout out Tom. Shout out Zen Surfboards of South Florida.
And get the world, the world's okayest shaper for the world's okayest waves.
What was your first interaction with the opposite sex in regards to attraction?
I was in 5th grade. 4th or 5th. No, 3rd grade. Jesus. No, this would have been 5th grade.
Okay.
I had a crush on a girl named Natalie Phelps.
No really relation to Michael Phelps?
No relation as far as I'm aware. Really big crush on her.
Was she white?
Yeah. Oh. I lived in McKinney, Texas.
That doesn't mean anything.
I know, but it was mainly it was a majority white class. I think there was one Hispanic kid in the class.
And why don't you like them?
Because I'm not gay. Nothing wrong with being gay, just not my speed. Just not my speed.
A likely excuse.
But yeah, I had a huge crush on her, and I wanted to ask her to the 5th grade dance, and I had been like humming and hawing about it, and then I found out that somebody else in the class, Tyler Horan, had asked her, and it broke me.
Son of a bitch.
It absolutely shattered me. I did find when I first moved to the U.S. that I had a lot easier time making friends with girls than I did with guys. So I had a lot of girl friends just girls that I was friends with.
Like platonic friends.
Yeah,
pals.
exactly. And like I'd have crushes here and there and stuff like that. But that was typically where it ended. Because I grew up with with a whole ton of strong women around me and my family, and I was taught from a very early age that you are always respectful to women. Period. End of statement. And I kind of took that to the extreme, and it was like, well, if I have a crush, well, I can't do any. I would hate to like be disrespectful and do anything about this crush, so I'll just pine from afar.
I was a pine from afar person as well growing up. Like I would just have crushes on guys and then just wonder when the heck it's gonna go away. I was really bad at like telling guys my feelings. Probably count on one hand the amount of guys I actually told my feelings to.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to this, but my thing was as soon as they were off the market, I was like, cool, it's free to flirt with them, because there's no consequence, there's nothing that will come of this now.
Yeah, I would do the same thing too, but I was kind of more so trying to take them away from their girlfriends.
No, specifically because I had a boyfriend made it feel safe for me.
Yeah,
when I flirted,
I was sort of both. It was like, okay, I could just kind of say or do whatever, but at the same time I did not want them to be with that person.
Yeah, I had so Natalie Phelps was my first like crush, and I remember towards the end of 5th grade, like no, this was 4th. Yeah, this would have been 5th grade. And then I remember towards the end of the year, I remember going to one of the kids in our class held a party for everybody, a big pool party for everybody. And they had a trampoline.
Oh, damn. So he was the cool friend. He was the cool kid.
She was.
She had a pool and a trampoline. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember going over and like, we were like, I was Danielle, man. The fact that I remember these names, they could all be inaccurate, but those are in my head, that is their names. I remember hanging out with her and jumping on the trampoline and just the two of us talking about like all the people we had crushes on in our class. And I told her that I had a crush on her. I remember that too.
You had, or you currently had one at the time?
I don't remember how I phrased it. I was in 5th grade. This is a long time ago.
Yeah. Did she have a crush on you?
Maybe. I just don't think it went anywhere because it was like the end of 5th grade. We were both. I was leaving the state.
Oh, true. Yeah.
But I remember then getting to Florida, and I remember I started playing water polo, and it was a bunch of high schoolers. It was a bunch of high schoolers, and I was in 6th grade. There was one other person who was in my grade, Allison Mantell. And I had such a huge crush on her, and I never did anything about it, and I never asked her or said anything, and then like that fizzled, and that was just kind of my dating story for a lot of my for all of it. And then middle school, a friend got up the nerve and she asked me out.
Oh.
And I said yes. And then I freaked out, and a week later I told her I didn't really want to.
Oh. Was it
And
because you truly didn't want to, or was it because
I
you were
was
too?
terrified. It was a lot of like I see myself as a side character a lot. So the side character always flirts with the girl but never gets the girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Don't know what to do with that.
You
Can't
didn't
be
know,
happy.
you didn't know what to do, how to be the main character.
No. It was like, to use a really poor metaphor, because I hate describing people this way. I was very much the dog that chased the car. I caught the bumper and I don't know what to do with it now.
Yeah, I feel you.
As high school went on, I got more comfortable with it,
Comfortable with what?
like dating and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it was typically, I would wait till she made the move. Almost every time. Yeah, no, every time in high school. Every time. Every girl I dated in high school, they always made the first move.
Were any of these girls, like, did you have crushes on them? And it was, like, very flattering? Or was it like, oh, you're cute, I'll date you?
Some of them came out of nowhere. Like, a couple of them, I was like, they weren't in that space for me. And then things happened, and I was like, oh, okay. No, this works for me. I'm good with this. Some of them I definitely had crushes on.
Okay.
I figured out that, like, if you make girls laugh and you say nice things to girls, they tend to like it. I did not figure out until way too late that's also just how flirting works.
Oh, I love this story. There, you said that there was a time when you were out with, like, your parents, right? And you saw someone.
Yeah, my dad, we went to, this was towards the end of high school, we went to an Outback Steakhouse.
Okay.
No, this would have been, it was either late high school or early college.
You didn't know that was flirting in college?
No, it must have been late high school
Okay.
then. Either way, I went to an Outback Steakhouse, and we walked by the hostess.
With the mostest?
I didn't say or interact with her in any meaningful way. And my dad made like a joke about how it's really annoying going out with you because, like, all the girls look at you. Mm-hmm. God, I hate this. This sounds like such an ego rub.
You were a tall, nerdy jock. And you did, but it was the nerdiness, the awkward insecureness was charade. And also, you were a teenager.
Yeah.
You know, you're still
figuring myself out, but
yeah.
Either way, like, yeah, he made a comment and then I just became hyper aware of it and, like, immediately lost that, like, flirtiness. Flirtiness disappeared at that moment because I was like, oh my God, have I been doing this to so many people? Because ego. So
Because of ego?
no, because ego, like, assuming that, like, oh my God, all of these broken-hearted women I've left in my past. Some, like, teenage boy BS.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, so, I was always friends with girls and then figured out a lot later that, like, I was really flirting with a lot of them. So that was a very long-winded way of saying of answering your question.
Yeah, that's fine. That was interesting. What was some cringy masculine things you did as a kid?
I definitely got into the whole gatekeeping thing. I was definitely that nerd that felt like he needed to defend his space.
Were you the type to quiz people on their knowledge of something? If they said that they liked it?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah?
Like, never in, like, the... Not in the worst ways, not in the most obvious ways, but it was always stuff like, oh, what are you a gamer? What type of games do you play? Oh, Candy Crush, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
You're not a real gamer.
Right.
Like, you gotta play, like, a game.
Mm-hmm.
Manly game.
Yeah.
Halo. Call of Duty.
Yeah. I would do stuff like that. I was very protective of my, like... I built walls around myself in a lot of ways that were, like... and I learned to lie. I learned that not saying things to lead people to make make assumptions about you is a great way to like be cool.
How Ivanka Trump of you.
Yeah. But like I like letting people fill in the blanks, and then like I figured out that it's fun to tell stories, even if the stories aren't necessarily true. And then that kind of became a thing.
One of our friends, I remember back in college when he was dating this chick, he was like, he sort of said something similar.
Yeah.
But it was interesting how he was essentially creating a story for her to believe. They were long distance anyway.
Yeah.
So it was interesting how that kind of plays a lot into just life in general.
Yeah.
You know, like I can ask you for $20 saying I need $20 for the bus, and you don't know if I'm going to use it for the bus or something else. But if you don't know, then you're going to just forever believe that, you know. It's one of those things where it's like, it's messed up to lie, of course, absolutely. Yeah. It's also just kind of interesting because there are certain times when, is it bad? You know, like, I'm not saying this is like weird to say to your boyfriend, but like,
yeah, is it bad to lie to people? Leandra, love of my life.
Yes, overall, absolutely, it's bad.
To me, it kind of ends up. It falls into a space of.
It's kind of controlling in a way. It's kind of a form of. It's a form of manipulation for sure.
It is. It is for sure. And the way I would typically use it is like, not to control people or anything super insidious like that. Just to boost my own ego or stories. Mm-hmm. Like the metaphor I would use is. If there's a scenario and I thought of a really funny what if situation, is it more interesting if I say what if or if I say I? It's the stand-up comedian effect, right? Like stand-up comedians do this a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not saying this is an excuse to excuse my behavior because I did this to real people in my life. Like that's not okay. But like it's that idea of like, well, I have this really funny joke story that I can tell. If I just make this about me and some person, some invented friend that I have, then it makes the story more fun and more believable for an audience.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
it's just to your friends, so it doesn't really matter. You're not going on stage and saying, you know, a joke that Hassan Minaj has said.
Not that necessarily. More along the lines of like, stand-up comedians build fantasy scenarios for themselves. Like they don't like a lot of these stories and stuff, and like you know, this is stand-up. Like you create this joke about a person in a scenario, and you just insert yourself and somebody else into it.
Yeah, it's difficult to do, but you can do that for sure. It depends on the type of comedian you are.
Yeah. But I would do that in my real life. I got caught up in this philosophy of like, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And it's a great way to like obfuscate yourself and hide your true self and the bits of yourself that you're uncomfortable with. And it all kind of like ends up in this like nasty little like death spiral Ouroboros of till one day you're like, you find yourself talking to people and you're like, you're lying about things for no reason. And not in a way to be malicious or to hurt people, but as a way to like feel like you fit in.
Did you ever believe your own lies?
Yeah.
Was it because it was so easy to say, or was it because you truly believed it?
No, it was easy to say.
Yeah.
I figured out early that if I was going to lie about things, I needed to remember my lies because my stories needed to be consistent amongst the people who talk to each other.
Okay.
And I needed to tell the same story. And I did that as a way to like hide from my own insecurities, and I've definitely lost friends because of it.
Really?
Like there's definitely people whose respect, like even recently, Because I'll find myself doing it on instinct sometimes.
Shit. Okay.
And it's like, why did I do this? And then, like, I've definitely lost friends over this. It's one of those things that you do enough that it becomes an instinct, and you have to deprogram yourself. And, like, it still slips up sometimes. I'll still exaggerate or embellish a story because the story's more fun if I do that.
Have you ever thought that maybe telling the story as it is already funny enough?
No, because that implies that I have value, and that's why I see a therapist every other week right now, because I don't believe I have value. I believe my worth. I don't believe my worth is internal. I believe my worth is external. So I need to make sure that external validation is as good as it can be, because that's my metric. I can't trust myself to judge myself, so I need everybody else to judge me, and I can put my thumb on the scale. Yeah.
I want to challenge you to. I don't know if you still do it or if you're. Well, you did say you kind of still like embellish the story.
Yeah, I'm better. I don't do it as often now.
Are you saying that?
No, I'm really not. I'm a lot better than I used to be, but yeah, I actually know the exact moment that I've truly realized that I was doing it on instinct and not doing it consciously anymore.
When was that?
I don't want to share it.
Oh, okay.
It's something that I still owe somebody an apology for that. So this isn't the venue for that. But gotcha. I remember that moment, and I remember how shitty it felt and how much I was like, oh, I just shattered this friendship.
How long ago was this?
And about 4 years ago. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I remember doing it, and I remember they never reached out to me directly. They stopped reaching out to me directly for stuff, to do stuff. They've never been mean to me. They've never confronted me about it, but they just stopped they stopped. I stopped being their first stop. I have friends. We have a pretty tight mutual friend group, he and I remember, so I interact with him periodically, but like I definitely know that like I messed it up, and sometimes that's what it takes. Most people's toxic traits come from their self insecurities more than anywhere else. They're externalizing their own insecurities, and I did that rather than stick through and get the help I needed. I ran fast and loose with it, and it came back and bit me.
Do you feel like other people's lives are more interesting than yours?
Yeah.
Yeah?
A lot of the time. I feel like I haven't done anything with my life.
I think you've done a lot with your life. I think your life is very interesting, personally.
People tell me that, but like in my mind, I'm the kid. I'm the hometown hero. I'm the guy who went to high school and lived his best days in high school. Apparently, I never left. I'm still down here. I didn't finish college. I worked retail for my 20s. Like, nothing wrong with retail if that's what you want to do with your life. But I was spinning my wheels in retail. The only reason I left retail is because I realized that my next step was store management, like was moving up that track. And if I went down that track, I was never leaving retail. So I pivoted, and now I'm in tech, but I'm on help desk in tech still. Because and part of that's because I'm still spinning my reels. I have a massive fear of failure. And because I have a massive fear of failure, I have a massive fear of risk. But I don't want to be perceived as being cowardly or being like a stick in the mud. So how do you cover that gap? You embellish truths. You tell little lies. Even if from the outside you don't need to. Because you're absolutely like I was born in England, lived in Texas for a little, and yeah, I've lived in Florida, but I've done a bunch of interesting things.
You have. And you still are.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not dead yet,
And yeah.
despite my best efforts. I don't feel a lot of the toxicity that I avoid, that I am still recovering from, all comes from a deep-seated insecurity about being picked on for liking video games, about being picked on for liking the things that I liked, being unapologetically intellectually curious. I'm not going to say smart because that sounds really smarmy and it isn't true, because there's a lot of popular kids who we considered popular kids in high school who are incredibly smart. They just were more socially adept than we were. That was their winning combination.
Yeah. I remember my therapist was telling me about popular kids, or like, I guess sometimes when he has to like work with them, or formerly popular kids.
Yeah.
I remember he was saying that, like, it's hard. They have to do a lot more and have more of an appearance and show face. It's almost like in a way like being a celebrity, if you think about it. You can't be a celebrity and go somewhere without a bra on and no makeup and just go to the grocery store and just pick up Coca-Cola when you're sponsored by Pepsi type of thing,
I mean, yeah, like or when you do, you're plastered over 18 magazines about how you're frumpy and you've gained weight and this is your downfall and look at you spiraling out. And it's like, I just wanted some Pop-Tarts.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, well, I was already feeling like shit, and now this is gonna make. I just wanted some Pop-Tarts. I didn't know I was breaking any internet laws. So that's kind of apparently, supposedly, how like popular kids feel. I never saw myself as popular, but for whatever reason, people, especially in college, I can't remember so much in high school, but in college, people would be like, "Oh, you seem to like know everybody." I was like, "I don't know what."
Because you do know everybody.
This is college. It's like 40,000 people in this.
This has not changed. You still know everybody.
I don't know everybody. I know. Sometimes, whenever Jacob and I go out somewhere, like somebody will recognize me occasionally, not all the time.
You're not even that. You made friends when we went for coffee on Saturday. Like, didn't even say bye to me. You were just like, oh, let me talk to these 3 people at this table. I had to come back and get my kiss goodbye before I went and did sorts.
Yeah, they just started talking to me, so I started talking to them.
Yeah. But, because you're social.
I don't know what that means. What does social mean?
It means the thought of talking to a complete stranger at a bar doesn't make you want to die in a corner somewhere.
No, that's actually one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I hate it. Don't ask me to do that. This is why dating was so hard in my 20s. I don't want to talk to nobody. I wanted them to talk to me. I needed them to make the approach because I didn't want to be obtrusive or like...
Or seen as a creep or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be. I went the opposite way with like women weren't commodities. They belonged on pedestals and should not be approached or touched in any way. I'm not gonna finish that sentence. Should not be approached and should be respected and put in a glass case. That was like my version of inceldom. It was like that like gross, like, yeah, I guess the Victorian kind of more modern interpretation of women's secondary status in society.
It was more so of a trophy.
Yeah, as a trophy, as opposed to live-in help. It all ends up in the same place, but
yeah, it's still not seen as
exactly.
Yeah.
And
just because you saw them as higher does not mean it's still not an equal.
100%.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I needed to be introduced to people. Like, I wouldn't, like, it's not coincidental that every time I said screw it and, like, decided to be the person that I think I'm not, I came out of it with a phone number or a girlfriend.
You don't think that's just another side of you? Because I'm guessing there was a little bit of liquid courage when you.
Oh, every time.
Yeah.
I have a fear. I have fear of failure. And I'm not saying that those versions aren't me, because I hope so. Otherwise, you said yes to a completely different person, apparently.
And I thought I was going on a date with a pirate, but we met at my Halloween party. We'll get to that later.
Will we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime I get out of my own way, things work.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
but I refuse to believe it.
That's how
I
life is.
know it.
Yeah.
Okay, Miss Wise One. Yeah, like I know it on a conscious level, but I don't believe it. Hence the therapy.
Yeah, definitely. I always say, do it scared. If there's something that you want to do, but you're too afraid to do it scared.
Yeah. If only you take your own advice sometimes.
Am I not doing this? You don't think this terrifies? This scares me too. You think I'm just out here comfortable as hell? It's like, no, first of all, like my pants, it's so hard to like cross my legs for one. It keeps like sliding. So I've been like holding myself in a way. I don't want to just be like this because I feel like that's just like way too casual. So that's already a discomfort for me right now, just sitting. You know, like you're a lot more, to me, you seem a lot more comfortable because like your leg isn't like sliding off of your pants. You know?
Well, you chose sweats. I don't know what to tell you. I in solidarity, I keep looking over and going, that is way too much chest.
I like it though. I think that's the correct amount of chest.
I do declare. To summarize, yeah, anytime I get out of my way, it works, but I don't believe that as much as I know that, and that's the bridge I'm trying to cross right now.
Yeah, you gotta tap into your mediocre white man, your inner mediocre white man.
Yep.
Yeah.
I am a mediocre white man, so I gotta tap into that.
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to be like not mediocre when you should be trying to be mediocre.
That is still one of the greatest expressions. God grant me the confidence of a mediocre white man.
Yeah. It's true. Like, how many mediocre white men have podcasts? And what are they doing? Like, saying a bunch of bullshit. That's not
that's the way
to
that
the point
works.
that they're waiting for Trump to put a tariff on these things, these podcast mics.
It's okay. Electronics are exempt. I don't know if you heard. Because we live in the stupid times. Mm-hmm. Because the only thing stopping us from being a fascist authoritarian state is the incompetency of the people in charge. It is terrifying. We live in the worst times.
I know. Sometimes I wonder what my alternate universe self is living in. What did you hold on to from back in the day, whether it's like middle school, high school, early college, and what did you let go of?
I'm still letting go of the need to be a certain type of person around people. I'm still letting go of that, and I'm much better at it now than I used to be, but I'm still letting go of that like concept, that like pedestaling of the women around me. Those are things that I would love to say are completely in the past, but skeletons and closets and all of that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah.
The things I'm holding on to is I like that I'm a bit of a big kid. I really like that I never quite gave that up.
Because you're still into anime and video games and
Yeah. I'm into play.
yeah.
I think is the better way to phrase that. It's not necessarily the activities I'm into. It's how I engage with them that I think is important. That I think we lose as we grow up. It's like,
For sure, yeah.
because like you even look at people who we have friends like this. Like you look at people who are into into video games and into anime, but it's almost like a job. They're like collecting these things and like engage. They don't engage with it in any sort of fantasy or fancy. And this is not to bash on people who collect toys and action figures, but like a little bit to bash on them. But like it's like the whole point is it is an object to be played with. If you're gonna leave it in a box and put it on a shelf, then are you actually enjoying this? Does this bring you joy, or is this is the sense of satisfaction some level of like completionism, adulting? Like, yeah, I'm glad. I have a sense of play and goofiness that I held on to from when I was a kid that I'm happy I still have. I think that I still hold on to that, and I definitely didn't lose my hobbies. They faded in and out. Like I anime in particular, like I go through like lulls and like I will binge everything under the sun with it. I'm currently in a binge everything under the sun mode, but I think I'm starting to come out of it because I'm having a harder time just powering through shows like I used to. I'm accepting that that's kind of the way I engage with the stuff that I love, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to.
I feel that.
I don't have to have a monthly check-in and go, oh, okay, cool. Like I've read so many books, and I've had so many, and I've watched so many shows, and I've gone surfing X amount of times. Like it's okay for me to be the maturity of it has been like, oh, okay, cool. Like the last few months, just not feeling the video games. Like haven't been playing as much as I used to. Like I get on every once in a while to play with a group of friends, but that's less about playing the game itself and more about engaging with this group of people where that's like the way we keep connected. And then and that's fine. I think those are the things that I'm kind of bringing forward with me from being a nerd.
Yeah.
Being unapologetically excited and cringy about stuff.
Yeah. And there's nothing cringy about it, I don't think.
It's not inherently cringy. I'm just using it as like people see it as cringy.
Yeah.
I saw a thing they were talking.
I feel like it's like a lot less so now. Are you going to talk about the Gen Z cringy thing?
No, it was more about, I was talking about anime conventions specifically.
Oh,
I was saying
okay.
like let anime conventions be cringy. Like that was the point. Like they're supposed to be cringy.
Yeah,
and it's like,
and then you meet fellow, cringe hards. And and like they're fun too.
Yeah.
I'd love to go to Dragon Con. I gotta make that happen.
You gotta call your people.
I know. God.
Gotta figure out if you're driving or flying to Atlanta.
I don't think I'd want to drive.
You don't want to drive 18 hours?
I don't think it's 18 hours. That's not 18 hours. It's like 12 hours to Massachusetts, or maybe DC, I think.
Okay, then.
It's like 12 hours to DC, I think.
Then I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's probably like 8 hours.
Oh, that's way easier.
Yeah.
Leave at like 8 p.m., get there at 5 a.m.?
Because it takes about 5 hours to get out of the state. Yeah. Five and a half. Because like if you just go up 95 or because Turnpike I think ends. So you go up 95.
And Turnpike becomes 75 and then cuts across the state. You could also take 75.
Yeah. And then you exit from like Jacksonville, St. Augustine, and Atlanta's like the top of Georgia, which I always forget. It's like, really? But Georgia's a small state compared to ours. So it might just take like 3-4 hours to get there. So it's nothing.
Either way, the geography of America aside, it would be cool to go. You should go to Dragon Con with your people.
Yeah, I don't know about this year, but I want to next year.
So start planning it now and book hotels and stuff so that you don't do this like you did last year, because we had this conversation last year.
Yeah, things like I also want my body looking right.
Okay.
I wanna slut it up.
Okay.
Dress like Nami or Robin or, good.
Okay.
Yeah,
So do it.
that's the plan.
Okay. So book the tickets. Give yourself a deadline.
That's fair.
Mrs. runs a 5K because she needs a deadline and then decides she doesn't need no deadlines no more.
That's true. I do need a deadline. Deadlines are important to me. They help.
Yeah. I think you need an external deadline too. This is about you, not me now. But like, because you keep saying your birthday and like, I think you need something on your birthday to justify that deadline.
Yeah, true.
I think it worked for your birthday, for your 30th because of your birthday shoot specifically.
Yeah, because I knew I wanted to do a photo shoot for it. It wasn't like sign up because I did the shoot 2 months before I turned 31.
Yeah.
But I was still like my
Yeah,
30th.
but that was your like that was your
30th year. Yeah.
You had a goal. You had a goal that wasn't just like vaguely I would like to look good by August 8th. Mm-hmm. Not the 10th. Nah, not gonna engage with me at all on that.
No.
But yeah, rather than it was like, no, I need to look good because I'm gonna go take pictures in a bikini.
That's true.
Or I need to be in shape because I gotta run a 5K.
Yeah, and I've
with
never.
my coworkers.
Yeah, and I never ran a 5K before.
Yeah, I think that's.
I was happy to. It was a good time.
You need to book the hotel or buy the tickets for Dragon Con.
Yeah. Gotta do something like that for real. What was a defining low moment in your life and how did you overcome it?
There are 3. I tried to cut myself 3 times.
Okay.
Once in high school, once in college, and then once in my late 20s, early 30s. I got really down on myself and I spiraled and I spiraled and I spiraled. I've been very lucky that over the course of my life, I've had an incredible support network around me. I've had friends, family members who, I can remember in college, one time I got low, I remember I didn't go to class that day. I curled up on my parents' couch in the living room and I texted 3 people, help. All 3 of them called me back. One of them wasn't my sister this time, but one of them was also at UF. Called me from 5 hours away. I've been very lucky in that, but even then, I get on myself and I get hard. It gets hard, and there's and the chemicals in my brain don't make it easy. And I get myself into a really low point, and I get to a point where I decide that I can't deal with that anymore. The world would be better without me, and 3 times I tried it. Thankfully, I messed it up and then promptly used the fact that I messed up my own suicide attempt as further excuse to beat me over the head and belittle myself about it. So, but there's no I got out of it by getting therapy out of college. High school, I never really dealt with it, because my mom took me to therapy, but I wasn't willing to go, and they put me on meds that weren't great for me. I felt like I was living in third party, like I was watching my life happen. I wasn't living my life.
Okay.
And so I bailed. I bailed on that pretty hard. Thankfully, in my 20s, I got really lucky with the counselor that FAU assigned me, and she was fantastic. And she got me started. She got me going. And then unfortunately, she moved to the honors college up in Jupiter. And the guy that came after wasn't as great.
Oh damn.
So yeah, we talked about stuff. We got stuff going, and then after I failed out of college, and the girl I was dating at the time had broken up with me, I realized I desperately needed to go back. Oh no, this was during this was when things were starting to fall apart. She hadn't broken up with me yet, but so I got back into therapy, and I found another great therapist, and that worked. I went and saw him for a good long time, and then unfortunately I lost my health insurance, so I lost him in the process. So there isn't like there isn't a fun, pithy story of how I dealt with my low points. I sought professional help, and I lent on my support network.
That's a great way of.
I remember, and I've lost a bit of touch with her, but I remember when I first moved in with my current roommate, our third roommate. She also deals with a lot of like depression and anxiety and stuff like that. So we had a bit of a connection there, and I remember when I tried to hang myself, I got my shit together enough to tell her, and I was like, "Hey, I just need you to check in on me every once in a while, because I did this recently, and I just need you to like. You don't have to do anything. Just every couple days to a week, if you haven't heard or seen anything from me, just knock on my door and make sure I'm still there." And she did that. I owe her for that. Like, your support network is everything when you're depressed. Because even if it doesn't mean anything in the moment, even if in the moment you're like, oh, they're just saying these things to be nice to me, afterward it matters. Remembering that person said those things, and when you're in a better place to hear them, is important. Because you don't. It's not an on-off switch. It's a gradient. Like, you go from your highs to your lows in it's a gradient. It's a wave. It's whatever metaphor you want to use. It's not like I'm depressed, now I'm good. I'm depressed, now I'm good. It's like a slow fall in and a slow rise out.
Yeah.
And like at the bottom is like you don't hear the nice things, but as you're coming out, you hear the nice things. And it's stupid because sometimes you beat yourself up for not hearing the nice things when you're at the bottom. Because brains are dumb.
Very.
Brains are out to get you. But so there's no, I don't think for me there's no fun story for this. There's just, I hit a low, and thankfully I was in a position and surrounded by people that let me claw my way back out of it. And it's just what it is.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. For real.
I'd say my pleasure, but that's a lie. I'm glad to share, though.
I can sort of relate about getting to the low moment, and it wasn't until my therapist taught me to reach out to people whenever I'm feeling down, or also just to kind of keep essentially a life rhythm.
Yeah.
Where you're talking to people, you're going out, talking face to face, you're exercising, you're going out, you're doing the things that your brain needs to be just a little bit better, and you don't really realize that you're missing that. I used to just think my low moments, my funks, were just normal.
Yeah.
I'm an ENFP according to Myers-Briggs, and
your corporate astrology. Yep.
Yes, my corporate astrology. But this was just things that I learned about myself in a way.
Yeah.
And heard and research, and they always said that like ENFPs have like like sharp low moments, and like we get high up and it'd be great, and then we have sharp low moments, and that would just happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was normal. I thought that was like, oh, I'm an ENFP, I just get like this. And when I told my therapist about it, I didn't say the ENFP thing, but that I was just that was depression. That was the signs of depression.
Yeah.
I never really realized what was helping me come out. Like I was living alone for a long time, and then my mom had moved in with me, and that was insanely hard,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the circumstances. Happy the circumstances happened. It was just, it was a
Yeah.
lot to take on.
She was going through a lot. You were going through a lot. The world was going through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it was just, yeah, I didn't know. I always felt shitty whenever it'd be a Friday night or a Saturday night and I'd be home again
Mm-hmm.
and no one hit me up to go do something. But even if they did, it's like, what? I don't even want to do the things that they'd want to do. And it was just me telling myself that to sort of make myself feel better about not doing anything,
Yeah.
even though I still wanted to be invited out. I
Yeah.
still wanted to do things. I still wanted to be included in things. I just felt like people were doing things without me, and it was just the stories I was telling in my head. Like who knows? Maybe everybody was home, but just also me reaching out to people, which I'm not really a fan of. I don't like reaching out to people despite being social or being an extrovert, as everybody says that I am. It's like it is hard
Yeah.
because I get nervous. I don't know if people. I expect people to cancel, and it happens, which is fine. Like I get it. Life happens.
Yeah.
I also expect, and then it's like, oh, then what if people do show up? Then I have to do this thing now, and now it's like,
Yeah.
OMG, I'm doing this thing. Even just Saturday with the cookout, the girl hang, it was still kind of like, oh my gosh, I gotta do this thing because I made a promise and I do want to do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, yeah, but it's still not easy. Like I still get that whole will anybody come to my birthday party feeling.
Do they like me? Yeah.
Yeah, like am I?
My worth is now directly tied to the attendance of this event.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, it's like, am I a loser? Am I still a loser? Was I ever a loser? Did I just think I was a loser?
Am I a loser for thinking this? Am I now a loser? Did I just turn myself into a loser?
Yeah, it's like, is everybody a loser?
Yeah.
I guess like it's great that you, especially during that time, had roommates that check in on you, because living alone could be very hard when it comes to that.
No, I've outside of one set of roommates, I've been very lucky with the people that I've lived with, worked with. Also been lucky there, but the people that I've lived with over the years, because it's like, even the roommates that I've found comradeship with them. Even if they weren't like, I'm gonna sit down and talk to you about my feelings. It was like, oh, you had a rough day? Let's go for a beer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you had like something went wrong. Cool. Let's go. Let's do something. What do you need from me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like when I lived with my best friend, and I found out my grandfather passed away. Not the most recent one, but my father's father.
Yeah.
And I remember I found out I was driving back from, and I think I was driving back from my parents' house. And my dad told me as I was like halfway down, because he just found out. Mm. And I remember at the time we lived on the second floor of an apartment building, but it was like one of those goofy ones where like all the doors are on the first floor. So the apartment was like a flight of stairs up into the main space.
I lived in something like that in college. Yeah.
And I remember I found out, and I got home, And I opened the door at the bottom of the stairs, and I just started crying. And my best friend and his now wife came down and just like sat there with me while I just sobbed it out. I had a friend. I made. There's another roommate that I had, Alex. He and I were very similar in a lot of ways, and like he and I became like really good friends. Like we played drinking and I got him into anime. We'd have these like nights where it would just be the two of us, and we'd sit there and we'd watch Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos and drink wine and eat hummus and fried chicken wings because we discovered it was a combo that we both liked. A weird combo that we both liked.
Sounds good though.
I have a very distinct memory of one particular St. Patrick's Day. The AC in our apartment was busted. So the only thing we had going for us was there was a they put in a little like one of those little baby units. And, it was, and he and I sat on the couch next to this like baby AC, like single room AC unit, the kind you see at a dorm, in our underwear, sweating to death, watching Boondock Saints, drinking whiskey. I have like, yeah, I've been like the people. I have been very fortunate that I have always been surrounded by wonderful people. It's what's kept me going, and that's why I'm still here. It's those people and them doing things like seeing that I hadn't been eating a lot because money was tight and inviting me over for lunch.
Yeah.
Not like being like, hey, do you need to eat? Do you want
Right, yeah.
It was like, hey, come over. Oh, have you eaten? Like, we're having lunch now. Sit down and join us. Like, it was never, I never felt like it. I never felt, well, there were times that I felt like a charity case. Because there's a lot of times where I had friends pick up tabs for me. And, like, I didn't go out because I didn't want to be that burden. They're like, and I would, if I was brave enough, I would tell them, and like 9 times out of 10, one of them would go, dude, we just want your company. Like,
Yeah.
come out. Like,
Yeah.
I'll cover you.
Right.
You pay what you can, and I'll cover the rest. It's fine. Yeah, those are the important people in your life. Not all of them are still in my life. Because you grow and you change and people move and you just lose touch, and
Right.
that's fine. But they were special for the time they were here, and that's the important part.
Yeah. You definitely taught me a lot about the present and how to live in it, to exist and be okay with it. Because, as you know, I'm very anxious and think about the future a lot. And
But she doesn't have anxiety, folks. Not even a little bit.
oh, hush. Yeah, and then, but you've definitely helped me with just living in the present and being okay there.
Yeah.
Of, like how things are currently is okay, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. My mom always said that if she had the opportunity, she doesn't have regrets. If she had the opportunity to make choices again, she might choose differently, but she doesn't have regrets because because she is the sum of the experiences that led to this moment.
Yeah.
So if she made that different choice, if she regretted something, then Rhiannon or I might not be here. Or she might not have met Dad, or one of a billion other things.
For sure, yeah.
That has always lived with me. My dad is incredibly good at just finding the joy and finding the fun in a moment. That's been everything for me. That's where that all comes from. Is like watching them and seeing them find like seeing them live in the present. It's ascribed to Buddhism. I don't know if it's truly a Buddhist saying or anything like that, but it's like there's only the past is a dream, or the past is a memory, the future is a dream, there is only the present. You only exist in this exact moment. So it's nice to plan ahead, it's nice to reminisce, but the only thing you can actionably do is right now. It's something that I ascribe to live up to, because obviously I fall short. You've seen me slip deep into the past with my depression.
Yeah.
It's a truth that it's my personal truth. Like that's important to remember.
Yeah.
Because it's okay to forgive yourself for the things that you did previously. And it's okay to make changes for the things you're going to do. But anything you do happens in the present.
Yeah, for sure. Has there ever been a negative, impactful moment that changed you for the better?
There have been a couple. Getting called out a couple of times for being a scummy teenager. I don't want to go into details because just out of respect for the other person's privacy.
Yeah.
I did some stuff as a teenager that, upon reflection, was not great.
And you were called out on it?
Yeah.
In the moment, or was it like later on?
In the moment.
Okay.
In the moment, and I realized, and it's sat with me since. It's like the thing we were talking about earlier, where I told a story, and then got called out on it, and I lost a friend over it.
Yeah.
And that sucks, because they're somebody I really looked up to and I really liked, and I lost them because I made a choice that moved me into a category. They're never mean to me. They're never. It moved me into a category of like, oh, okay, cool. This is my friend's friend now. I don't trust this person. This is not my person. This is not a person I can put faith in or want, or actively want to be around.
Yeah.
I think those are the big two. Those are definite moments that kind of redefined what I thought about myself, and were such loud reminders of where the faults in my thinking and my actions were, that I could not be ignored. That even I couldn't explain them away. Like I had to internalize them.
It's moments like that at the time is you feel like absolute garbage, and it's hard, but it does put hair on your chest metaphorically, as you have here. I know you've never cheated on anyone, and you've never gotten cheated on.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
As far as you're aware. Have you ever been the other man?
I was once. I was nearly one once. She and her husband were going through a really nasty separation and divorce.
Okay.
And I was the fun distraction. It was a lot of potential. It was very little action. Because as is standard operating procedure for me, it escalated and boiled up, and it got to a point, and it nearly went somewhere, and I immediately hard bailed. And I then made her the bad guy, which is so unfair of me. It was so unfair of me. I was 21 and stupid, but that's still not an excuse.
How old was she?
She was in her 30s.
I mean, I think you did the right thing about, because that's a hard place to be. Granted, I wasn't there, so I don't know the full context.
I don't think I did wrong by rejecting her. I did do wrong by vilifying her.
Gotcha. I understand, yeah.
I turned her into the bad guy in my head, and I was like, oh, how could I? Yeah. And that was stupid of me. And I froze her out and lost a meaningful friendship out of it. Because it worked, not just because we were we connected because we got along. We had similar interests. Like, it wasn't like this was a build up over the course of like a year. So it wasn't so yeah, rather than handling it in a mature way, I immediately froze her out. It takes two to tango. There's two people who made choices that weren't necessarily great, but I could have been and I should have been a better person about it.
I don't know, because like your perspective would have been a lot different because you were like 20, 21,
Yep.
and she was in her early 30s and a marriage was ending. That's just two completely different places in life, though.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't think.
But it's just like how you went about it. Did you vilify her to her, or was it just in your mind?
I froze her out completely. I stopped talking to her. I started doing. I may have made like some snide comments to like other people around us and stuff like that. Like never. I don't think I ever outed her, but it wasn't like anybody in the friend group that I was in didn't know we were flirting aggressively with each other. But had I handled it right, yeah, I lost a friend. I lost a friend.
Were you two working together?
We were, yeah.
Okay. I was just trying to. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, now my parents are never watching this.
Do you know what she's up to? Do you have any sort of...
She's married again.
Okay.
She's happy.
Okay.
She lives in Virginia.
Okay.
Her kids are graduating.
Okay. So you guys are like friends on Facebook, I presume?
Yeah. We check in every once in a while. We got back to a good place for a little while. Like, she would come into town. When she would come in and visit, we'd grab lunch. Kind of thing. But, yeah, she got married and she's happy now.
Okay.
She found the right person, it seems like, this time.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad that you guys are on, like, good terms, at least.
Yeah.
Can you think of a relationship that really defined you? It could be an ex, a mentor, a coworker, a teacher or something.
I had a lot of really good coaches over the years.
Nice. That's good.
One of them's running for a school board right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've had some really good coaches over the years. I don't think I've had a single relationship. I can't think of a single one. I mean, my dad, my relationship with my mom and my dad, but my dad in particular has always been. He always managed to thread that needle of like treating a kid like they're the right age. It's like glib to say like treating a kid, you should treat kids like adults, but like there's a certain truth to that. I just don't think it's fully explained out, but my dad's always been good at that.
So, like, when you were 8, he would treat you like you were 8, kind of thing?
He would take my conversation, he would listen to what I was saying as if an adult was saying it. I think is the way I would say that.
Okay. And
Even
that's
if
where
the
you learned how to
subject
do
matter,
that.
even if the subject matter is like, it's weird that the sky is blue. You know, the kind of inane, kind of weird thoughts you have as you're developing your brain. It's very serious to you, but if you say it to a lot of adults, they'll pinch you on the cheek, you're so cute, and all that stuff. And it's like, there's a level of like, oh, okay, cool, you think this. Talk to me about it. Tell me why. Like, I'll explain to you as best I can if you keep asking me why. At a certain point, if you're being smug about it, and you'll be told you're being a smug git about it. But Like, yeah, like he and my mom are both really good about like when they engage with like I try and do this with the kids that I interact with on a regular basis.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Is like if you come up and you tell me a very serious story about your pet rock, I'm gonna take it like a very serious story about your pet rock because to you it matters.
Yeah.
And I think kids get more out of that. And like if you want, I don't know, this is me getting into parenting philosophy for which is something I never ever hope to experience. But like I always found that like when you a kid will listen to you if you listen to them, because there's a reciprocity to it. And
Yeah,
I get
that's
that,
true.
like, and it for me, it's a position of, like, uncle privilege, right? Like, when I interact with these kids, I don't have to be the bad guy. But I think I think treating everybody, like, taking everybody seriously is important. Because I think it's something we lose as we get older. And I've noticed it myself. The older I've gotten, the more cynical I've gotten. The less I've heard people out when they've said things. I've gone, okay, that's a stupid statement. I'm just going to ignore you from now on.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that growing up for sure. And that's kind of why I know I've spoken to you about this all the time, where I was just kind of quiet and kind of did my own thing because, you know, some of the words that I first learned as a kid was like vex, miserable, and rubbish, because my mom would always say those things. Like whenever she'd come home from work, she'd be like, "Lad me vex," or if I try to talk to her about something, it's like, "You're speaking rubbish." And I was like, "Oh, all I'm saying is just trash." So it's like, all right, I guess I'll just won't talk to you or won't really talk much. And it's, if mom were to hear this, which she will, she'd be like, "Oh, that's just how Jamaicans talk. That's just how we talk." And I'm like, Jamaicans aren't perfect deities, like we have flaws. I know this is like a shocking, controversial statement, but there's things that from, previous generations that we need to let go of. And one of those things is talking to your kids like they're imbeciles and like the stupidest adults that should know everything on the planet.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I am 9. It's like, I don't know.
As a British person, I have no strong opinions on this matter out of political correctness.
Yeah, that's just me getting upset
No, I
about it.
gotcha.
It's like,
I'm joking.
yeah. And I've noticed myself doing that to like my, especially my oldest niece and my oldest nephew, because by the time they were born, I was in my early teens, so I didn't like know anything, and I didn't really have that much interactions with like my aunts and uncles usually during the holidays, and one of my aunts I was, I'd see more often because like her, I would go to school with her son, and she had 2 boys and she never had a daughter, and I was, like, but well, unfortunately, one of her sons, my cousin, died.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I wasn't particularly, close with my cousins so much either. It's not like I had any, it wasn't like there was anything bad between us. It was just mainly holidays and distance and just
Yeah.
no way of, just factors. But I just never really felt comfortable speaking because I was just constantly told what I said was just like rubbish or stupid, or I was constantly made fun of by my, especially like my older brother, my older siblings. So like it was hard.
Okay.
Yeah, but I always wonder like what life would be like if I just had somebody, especially an adult for sure, who met me where I was at, who talked to me like where I was at.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like what your dad did and does, and what you do with, with children. Like you meet them where they're at. Like
I hope so.
I think so.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I would say so. I absolutely think so. Were you ever close to falling into inceldom?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I played Gatekeeper. I did a lot of stuff. Like, my whole personality became, like... I self-described as an incel back in the, like, when it became a joke. You remember when it initially, before it became what it is today, it was, like, kind of a joke on Reddit and stuff?
I always felt like it was, I never knew if it was like a joke. I always thought it was just like a niche group of, like a very small niche group of people who truly believe that they were involuntarily celibate.
Yeah, I mean, I engaged, at least initially, like, I described myself that way because it was like, oh, haha, like, I can't get a date, like,
Oh, you were
I
like,
can't get matches, so I guess I'm an incel. Like,
oh, okay, like you weren't seriously, like.
But, like, there's a lot of stuff, like, that whole externalizing your, insecurities was like a very real thing that I used to do. Like I was gatekeeping about video games. I was gatekeepy. Yeah, it was specifically video games that I got like in on because I think like I liked watching competitive video games and like there was always that like if you told people you're into competitive video games, it was always like the like but they're just playing video games, it's not really a sport and it's like but it's something you care about, so you like immediately get defensive. And like I think that pivots into like frustrations with not dating and stuff like that. And then like you get to a point and it's like I said, I got to a point where I don't think I was an incel in the like all women suck, all women are whores and like they and too stupid to make the right choice of me. That kind of incel, but I was definitely an incel in the sense of like all women are angels and deserve to be treated as such. And if I put zero effort in and like they'll eventually see me and come down and deign to come down to me. I think that was the kind of inceldom I kind of teetered on. Where it was like it was still in a way relationships were still in a way transactional. It was just
It was kind of like a point system, like in a restaurant where you
yeah
visit somewhere several
or
times.
like a dating sim or whatever, and it was like if I build up enough points, I'll unlock the dialogue where she confesses her undying love to me. Because I think everybody goes through a period where it's like, man, dating sucks. Dating is hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Men suck, women suck. Everybody picks the wrong people, all that kind of stuff. But I definitely teetered on that line of like, I can't approach women because women should not be seen as sexual objects, and as such, they must live in pristine boxes upon plinths and in heights that my lowly worm self cannot approach. And one of them will one day deign to come down and rescue me from my groveling existence in the mud. Like that whole bullshit. Where it's like, actually, no, they just want you to treat them like a person and, like, engage with them in a way that isn't transactional.
Do you feel as though when you found out what flirting was, like, did you kind of bridge the gap in a way of, giving women compliments and, making them smile, but also still treating them as an equal? Or am I making sense?
No.
Okay.
I stopped flirting when I found out what flirting was. I was like, oh God, I've done this horrible thing. I've led so many women on. I've left a trail of broken hearts and tears behind me without even realizing it. Full ego mode. And like, I stopped flirting because like, I didn't want, and
that's also, I guess, part of the not trying. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're hoping that they would come to you.
Yeah, they would make the first move. They would give me the opening to start flirting. And like, I think it's easier. I think it seems a little sillier now, just because it is more like, as we were going through all of that, it was becoming more and more common for women to be comfortable being expressive in their desires and being flirty
Yeah.
in bars, and like, not in like a I'm doing this for a man tee hee hee pin up at the bar type way, but like actually going over and being like, hey, I think you're kind of cool, like, let's dance. Like, at the time though, like, that wasn't the done thing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's true. Like
so
we were, I feel like women, especially like around the time like we were growing up, girls were taught that, you know, if you ask out a guy that's desperate.
yeah.
I remember this on the bus. I was in middle school on my way to school, and I remember this girl saying that. She was like, "Oh, I'll never ask out a man. That's desperate." And I was just like,
I can't do that?
yeah. I was like,
I was thinking about it.
yeah. I was like, oh no, like. So that's probably one of the reasons why I just kept like my crushes close to the chest. I don't know. I'm sure there were probably guys that figured it out. Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was being obvious or I just didn't think I was being obvious. But I'm sure yeah. I remember hearing like this guy liked me that I liked, but I just didn't do anything because I thought it was a lie because we're like the only two black students.
Yeah.
So
You're like, well, they color match, so they must be together.
shut up.
That's what you just said.
I say color match. Like this is, I don't know, like an outfit.
Not saying that's what I think. I'm just saying that was the thought process.
So why didn't you fall into inceldom? Or what do you think stopped you?
The women around me.
Your friends? And,
Yeah. The friends that I have that are women. My mom and my sister. Like, knowing that, and like, and ironically, I think my depression.
Because I figured like depression would kind of help get you into a space like that.
It does, but it also kept me out of it because there was a level of like, this is great ammunition. They don't want to be with me because I am scum. Not because they suck, because I am scum.
Oh. Okay.
Not because there's something wrong with them, but because there's so much wrong with me that why would you ever approach me? And like, very much that does make me very undateable. Ironically, because I think that way, but yeah. But like, it's, yeah, I think the depression weirdly helped. This idea of like, I am lower than the lowest scum speck on the planet. Clearly never gonna get me a date because women aren't there to fix you. Like,
There's a lot of women who try. I mean, I feel like that's definitely a teens and 20s girl thought.
yeah, you want the bad boy that you can fix, or the sad boy that his only source of happiness in the world is me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the Scott Pilgrim 7 X's pyramid. 7 evil X's pyramid.
Yeah. So, do you know if you ever dated a woman who tried to like quote unquote fix you?
No, I don't think I did. I definitely lost relationships because I needed fixing, but I needed to fix myself. Because absolutely fair to them, it was not their job. They needed support in the same way that I needed support, and it was unfair to expect only one direction.
How did you meet your girlfriend?
I got invited to a Halloween party, and by my coworker, and he refused to tell me if it was a dress-up party or not because I guess he didn't ask. And I was like humming and hawing about going. I nearly didn't go, but I was like, screw it. I spent the money. I bought a costume. I put a costume together for this. Like, I'm gonna go. And like, worst case, I just bail early, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, honestly, I was a little like, I was in a bit of a self-destructive part of my depression at the time.
Oh, okay. So you're like in a down and a depression.
Yeah, I would say so. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's get stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be stupid.
Fuck it, we ball.
Fuck it, we ball. And went to this party. Get there. Don't know anybody except for my friend from work. Only 2 of us are dressed up. The host of the party and me. Ironically, she was wearing her friend's Sailor Scout outfit.
Yeah.
And I was dressed up as a pirate. I like clocked her. I was like, oh, she's hot. She's hot. And then like got into the party, did the party thing, like got distracted. Got to dance with her a little bit. And then she got mad because I couldn't be on rhythm. Though I don't think she remembers that.
I kind of do.
And like kept trying to, and I was like, at one point I was like, all right, like maybe I try something. We see where this goes. And then like could not get your attention for more than like 30 seconds. So I was like, all right, cool. That's not happening. Whatever.
So I was being a host.
Because you were being a host. And then like towards the end of the night had quite a few more drinks. And as I got that liquid courage going and was like, I'm gonna try. Why not? She seems kind of into me. Like there might be something there. And like helped you clean up. Loitered as long as I possibly could because you had another friend who I thought was a rival, and is like definitely a very attractive guy.
Yeah.
And like finally leaves, and I turned around and I looked at you and I asked, "Hey, I think you're stunning. Can I kiss you?" And you said, not till we go out. You said, I'm trying to be a good girl, not till we go out. And I was like, okay. In Jacob's drunk brain, I was like, oh, she means, okay, cool. I get a kiss, but it's a good night kiss at the door. Because
Outside.
that's out.
Yes.
And it's like, cool. If I'm at the door, then like the whole thing is like, if I'm at the door, like it's not going anywhere else. It's just the kiss at the door and a goodbye. And then I asked you for a kiss at the door, and you're like, no, you got to take me out on a date first. And I was like, oh. Then we exchanged numbers. We went out for smoothies a week later. Walked around for a good little while. And I asked you out again. And we went to dinner after I got back from New York for a wedding. And 2 and a bit years later, we're here.
Yeah.
Answering really intrusive personal questions on a camera because somebody had a passion project.
And somebody loves me.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's an accurate retelling.
Thank you for confirming my story.
I was there too.
What kind of host are you? Just insert in your opinion places.
Well, Jacob,
Well, Leandra.
we have come to the end.
Oh, good. It was a nice short episode then.
Yes, very short. Jacob, is there anything you'd like to promote?
Nope. World peace. Fuck Trump. That's about it.
Okay. Fair. I promote those too.
One more than the other these days.
Yeah. Well, that said, thank you so much for joining us. Please like and subscribe and share.
Hit the notification bell.
Yeah.
Do the YouTube
Yeah, the
things.
YouTube things. Do the YouTube things. This is YouTube. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you, Leandra. I love you, Leandra.
I love you too, Jacob.